So I'm Paul Burton, I'm Professor of Urban Management and Planning, and I'm Director of the newly formed Cities Research Centre here at Griffith University. My current research interests are looking at how we improve strategic planning for infrastructure, especially at the regional level. So we're looking at whether we can make regional planning more efficient and more effective.
My name is Dr. Tony Matthews. My research areas are largely around climate change adaptation in cities, so I look at that from two particular perspectives. The first is from policy making, how we make policies that will allow us to make our cities more climate adaptive, and the second focus of mine is the design interventions that go with making adaptive cities.
My name is Turan Alzadeh, and I do research in a quite broad range of areas, from infrastructure to disaster management to spatial planning.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Fleming. I'm the MBA Director here at Griffith University, and I'm an applied microeconomist who researches mostly in the area of environmental economics. So my research looks at evaluating policies or programs in terms of how they most effectively meet their objectives in terms of sort of economic outcome, but also making sure that environmental outputs or inputs are adequately accounted for.
So we get our research out in two ways. One way that we get our research out to policymakers and city shapers and industry professionals is by working with them to begin with. So we sit down with them and we work through the research issues and we see what their questions are and what their challenges are and what their problems are. Another way that we get our research out there is we synthesize it into public interest pieces and media releases. So we write a lot of conversation articles, or for that website, The Conversation. We do a lot of radio. We write for newspapers. So we synthesize our research that we've done, our academic research, and we turn it into something that can be easily taken on board by the public.
So our research is quite practically focused in that a lot of it is funded by clients, so we're responding directly to the needs of usually public sector clients, but also sometimes NGOs such as the World Wildlife Fund and some of the environmental organisations that are out there. So most of our research is very applied and focused. That is, we apply economic techniques to real environmental issues that people are facing.
There is a big challenge in getting the balance right. When I talk about balance, I'm talking about the very fast pace of change, technological change, versus the slow pace of change in governance and in policy making. So it's important to use this opportunity and build upon telecommunication-based opportunities to have socially sensible ways of sustainable economic development.
The big advantage now is that we've got a wider group of experts who can bring their expertise to bear on the problems facing our cities, and we can do that in a much more imaginative and innovative way, because the problems that cities are facing require that kind of cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary academic research and working on the ground as well.
The more disciplines that we're actively engaging with, engineering, planning, health, economics, social policy, etc., the more comprehensive our urban solutions can be and the more meaningful and useful our research can be, both as research in itself and also as research that has outreach and practice implications for policymakers and industry.
The biggest challenge of all time for me and for many of my colleagues is climate change. I see telecommunication-based opportunities as very powerful tools to help us deal with that biggest challenge of all time.
For me, the most important challenge facing our cities in the 21st century is climate change. Climate change is going to be the #1 issue for cities globally. And all of the other urban processes that we pay attention to and concern ourselves with, transport, infrastructure, housing, etc., all of those now increasingly exist in a context where climate change is defining the way that we work and the capacity that we have to work in cities. So if we're not attentive to climate change as an overarching issue, we will do very poorly in dealing with other urban issues.
So the biggest challenge facing cities in Australia and indeed around the world, I think, is how to manage growth. Now what we have to do is to manage that growth. We don't want to stifle it, but we want to ensure that it proceeds in a sustainable manner.
So one of the biggest challenges facing cities is population growth and the pressures that puts on their natural environment. And there's lots of evidence to suggest that greener, more natural environments are good for people's well-being. So the challenge for cities is to try and design and plan cities that retain that green open space, even in the pressure of urbanisation and population growth.
And a new step forward in our urban research. It's wonderful because it brings together a disciplinary spectrum of disciplinarians. We have economists, we have planners, we have architects, we have engineers, we have people from health, and that multidisciplinary approach is a really, really vital and important and advantageous way to understand urban challenges in the 21st century.
In my research, there are times that you feel very lonely because you are working at the intersection of quite a number of different areas, but you are not at home in any of those. A center like cities, which has a broader understanding of cities, will provide a home for people like me.
The new Cities Research Centre is an opportunity for myself as an economist to meet other researchers in other disciplines who are working on similar problems. I think interdisciplinary research is the best research.
So the Cities Research Centre is all about doing research of the highest possible quality, but research that's relevant and pertinent to the challenges facing our cities now and going forward.